It's been nearly 200 years since the United States signed a treaty agreeing to give the Cherokee Nation a seat in Congress. But it never happened. Now the tribe, the largest in the country, wants the government to make good on its word. Last month, the House Rules Committee held a historic hearing about seating the Cherokee Nation's delegate. Our special correspondent, Joey Chen, heads to Oklahoma to talk to the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation about the unfulfilled promise.
Beneath the dome of the U.S. Capitol, in the hall that houses gifts from each of the 50 states, stands the legendary Cherokee Sequoyah, a fitting representative of the state of Oklahoma and a reminder of a promise unkept.
It's a very simple declarative sentence, but the United States wrote it, and we're taking them up on the offer.
The offer Cherokee Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin refers to comes from this, the bitterly divisive 1835 Treaty of New Echota.
This is a document that's a source of pain, and this is a document that represents the United States' betrayal of Cherokee Nation and the United States' betrayal of its own principles.
The treaty was the final straw that led to the forced removal of Cherokees on the Trail of Tears. Some 4,000 Cherokees, almost a quarter of the tribe, died as the U.S. military drove them from their ancestral homelands west to what is today eastern Oklahoma. But the treaty, signed by the notoriously anti-Native President Andrew Jackson and ratified by the U.S. Senate, also contained a surprising provision, Article 7, which says the Cherokee shall be entitled to a delegate in the House of Representatives of the United States whenever Congress shall make provision for the same. After 187 years, the Cherokee believe that whenever is now. Why are we dealing with this almost 200 years later?
Here's the way we see it. The President of the United States signed the treaty. His people crafted the treaty. The Senate of the United States ratified the treaty. Was it nearly 2 centuries ago? Yes, it's still the law of the land. It's now incumbent on the House to take that final action to fulfill the when Congress shall make provision for the same.
It is stipulated that they shall be entitled to a delegate in the House of Representatives.
This fall, the Cherokee got as close as they've ever been to seeing that promise fulfilled. For the first time ever, House members debated some issues still to be resolved, including how the delegate should be chosen. The Cherokee Nation has identified its choice, who would not have a vote in Congress, but would have a voice. What will be different when you are a seated delegate?
Well, Cherokee Nation would have a seat at the table when making laws, formulating laws that will impact the Cherokee Nation, but not just us, right? It will be an extra seat at the table whenever we're talking about Native Americans generally.
At the
top of the agenda, funding for language preservation and education. Following the example of Sequoyah, who first codified the Cherokee alphabet, the tribe recently opened a $20 million language center with immersive teaching for children and adults.
These two things are coming together at an important moment in history. Perhaps it's not coincidental, perhaps it's by design, but it's certainly, I think, driving home for all of us Cherokees that having a voice matters, whether it's in Cherokee or on the floor of the House.
It's a voice now speaking up and determined to be heard. For Matter of Fact, I'm Joey Chen in Tahlequah, Oklahoma.